number of perfectly sane and reliable people have been involved in this flying saucer business.
For whatever reason, the big science journals don't want to publish her findings.
Dr. Reed is a famous investigator of psychic phenomena, but disbelieve that such a shoe might interfere with my investigation.
The term flying saucer has become a household word.
There's a multitude of theories and explanations for the mysterious lights and unexplained phenomenon witnessed by millions of people around the world every year.
Since 1948, one publication has continued to bring news about paranormal phenomena and unexplained events. That magazine is Fate. And in that tradition of providing true reports of the strange and unknown, this is Fate Radio. And now, coming to you live from WGOG Digital Broadcasting, your host of Fate Radio, Todd Bates.
And a good evening, one and all. Welcome, Fate Radio Live. Let's Talk Radio.net. That's where you need to be. Log into the chat room. Got a lot of great people already into the chat room. You can log in there through Facebook, Twitter as a guest. An amazing Friday the 13th, 2018. April 13th. Gotta love it. We have an amazing show planned for you this evening. First hour, we're going to be talking with Tom Hackney. Now, we're going to be talking about alien communication. This is going to be amazing, folks. So you definitely want to be in the chat room. Have your ears open. Post those questions in there. And if you do post them in there, please post them in all capital letters. That way everybody, will be able to see it in there, as well as we can get it to our guest here a little quicker for you. And second hour, don't forget, we've got Sophia Temperilli. She's going to be joining us here, the ghost host herself. She's going to be joining us second hour. And without further ado, now tonight, our first guest, Tom Hackney.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. Now, Tom is the author of the ETI Grail and Alien Memos. Now, about meaningful interfaces and communications from an advanced non-human intelligence, beginning in 1992. Now, 3 days before NASA commenced the High-Resolution Microwave Survey, or SETI project. Now, Tom's articles, of course, have appeared in Fortean Times, MUFON Journal, 34th Parallel, Hack Writers, Adelaide and Fate magazine, among others. Welcome to Fate Radio, Tom. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Goodness, where to begin? So many things to discuss.
I'll tell you. I'd like to say that I've been listening to your show, and it's an amazing show. Where have you been all my lifetime? And I think I'm in love with Ariel Grace already.
She's
after listening to her for 15 minutes.
Yes, she
what a
is.
Wonderful person she is.
She is my better half, Tom, and I tell you what, she is positive and cheery all the time, exactly what I need in my life, and thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoy Fate Radio as much as we do broadcasting it. It's just, it's an amazing time here, but let's get into some aliens here, Tom. Now, have you always been interested in aliens from other planets, or, when did this start for you?
That's a good question. Probably, as a kid, I was into science fiction, heavily. And so, my world was colored with aliens. And then I got involved with the UFO business in New York City with, the businessmen there. But primarily I'm interested in extraterrestrial intelligence, in other beings that are not human, that have developed, in a different way, perhaps, have maybe more intelligence, maybe less intelligence, but, different intelligence. Mm-hmm. And that's always fascinated me, that whole idea of what intelligence can be. And so I was receptive to, the first, what I believe to be the first global communications from aliens or extraterrestrials. Aliens is kind of a pejorative term.
It really is. It's stereotypes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, call them what you like. I've given a name to them, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just logical, and we live in a very vast universe, even our own galaxy, is pretty huge. I mean, when you think about it. And, the age of the stars is, in our galaxy, half of the stars anyway are, on average, about 1.5 billion years older than our sun.
My goodness.
So, if you think about that for a while, how big a number that is, really, it means that, they could be pretty advanced. Look how far we've come in 500 years, right?
Right.
So, if you multiply that by 3 million, what could you be?
Definitely a lot smarter.
Yeah, they probably figured a few things out by then.
Now, with this, you have the vastness of space, and we're used to our small little galaxy here. There's so much speculation and controversy with them visiting here or already being here on planet Earth. But communicating. Now, what I wanted to discuss with you now is the SETI program itself. What are your opinions on the SETI program?
My sort of life in the last 25 years has been sort of a contest with NASA and their SETI program, which they started in 1992 with the SETI Institute, which is part of the Ames Research Center in California, and I've been communicating with some of the people at the SETI Institute and having a kind of debate, not a very good debate, but they just completely close it down. They are only interested in radio waves. If it's not radio waves, they're not interested.
Right.
So anything else, and they're closed to it. And if it's not, completely, scientific in its approach, if intuition is involved, or if something that's not scientific exactly in their exact radio wave paradigm, they're just not going to be receptive to it. So this has been going on for years, and I even had a brief interface with Carl Sagan, and he just I think he in his heart of hearts agreed with me, but it was too much for him to think. So he gave me this sort of like boilerplate denial, saying that I had failed to I had failed to make the crucial distinction between a posteriori and a priori statistics. Now, figure that one out. But basically, what he was saying was that if you have a target and you try to hit the target with something, that's the way it's supposed to be. But
right.
if you throw the bullet or whatever, the projectile at something, and then you draw the target around it, that's a posteriori. So but he's really mistaken in the sense that that's not what happened. The targets that I talk about were drawn first, and then ET hit the target. But he was saying it the other way, that what I had done is thrown the arrow first, and then drawn the target around it to prove my point.
Right.
That was his argument.
That's
what he was saying, by this a posteriori nonsense. But anyway, that's the scientific viewpoint.
And I would agree, Tom. That does seem that he is in denial. Me personally, my opinion, of space and intelligence elsewhere, you would have to be conceited to think that we are the only life forms in the universe. You really would, because it is so vast, it's huge. And SETI, they really don't leave anything open for speculation. And you're right, it is purely scientific. They deal strictly with radio waves. Now, there has to be other forms of communication. I mean, look at all the forms of communication that we have.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, if you gave an advanced extraterrestrial a choice, I think they would probably choose some other method besides radio waves.
Yeah.
But the only choice that the scientists give them is radio waves. So if it's not radio waves, not interested.
Yeah, to me, that just... It's almost as if they're set up for failure, because they don't really leave the spectrum open. And to have that access in the funding as well, Tom, for that kind of equipment, you would think they'd be trying every single means of communication, but they seem to be very narrow-minded. SETI does. Yeah,
they are. Yeah, in fact, I think this is the humor that the extraterrestrials are making here, is that by trying some other method, you would completely befuddle them, and they're just so simple-minded that they can't wrap their heads around some other methodology.
And Brenda in chat here has a question here. I want to get this out in the open because it's a comment/question. But wouldn't it take great intelligence to do space travel beyond one's own galaxy? I mean, it would have...
Yes. Well, I mean, if you have 1 billion years, I mean, you figure it out. You would only have to expand your sphere of exploration about 1 light year every 30,000 years, to cover the entire, distance between them and us, So, I mean, 1 light year in 30,000 years, I mean, is pretty poor. I mean, we could even do that probably, But, I mean, with 1.5 billion years of research, it's they could walk here by now.
Right. Yeah, they have plenty of time, and the traveling. Of course, I want to get into this. We're going to get into different forms of communication and things as well. But as far as traveling, do you think that just your personal opinion? Do you feel that they're using some kind of wormhole, or even a black hole for that matter, some kind of tear in space? So they're able to manipulate time itself.
Oh well, I mean, anything's possible when you have that kind of time behind you. With that amount of research under your belt, I mean, they figured out everything. I mean, if there are wormholes, they found them. But they don't even need the wormholes. As I said, if you just travel at a constant rate of, just a constant slow pace, you only need to travel 1 light year per 30,000 years, assuming a 1.5 billion year head start, which is what they, on average, as I said, the stars are on average about 6.3 billion years that we're talking about, and our sun is only 4.8 billion years old. So that gives them plenty of time to get here. And if the biological prohibitions are involved, and they just send machines. Machines don't get tired, they don't get homesick. They have artificial intelligence, and but I mean, we can't even conceive what they're like.
No, that is something. I mean, I can't even imagine it. I really can't. Well, you have a lot of reports of abductions and people that have seen them, the sightings and things, and the description always comes about the same, really. But there has to be differences. They've been coming here since we were here. Do you feel that they're on the planet now, Tom, living amongst us, or do you think they're hiding and they have things?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that they. I have no information about that. I have no personal sightings, to speak of. I have, I just have logic. I just have my brain, which, with a few basic facts, can induce, what's going on. But my books and my observations are hard. They're what I mean by that is they're solid. They're not ephemeral. They don't wink in and out. And these are events that I'm talking about. The events that I'm talking about are scientifically verified. They've been studied 9 ways to Sunday. I mean, with thousands of hours of top scientists, confirming what I'm pointing out. It's just that they don't see beyond the data. They just
correct.
Are interested in the data. I'm interpreting the data.
You're thinking outside of the box. I mean, you're putting two and two together to where they just want to see the math problem without doing the work. That being said, it leaves them also narrow-minded. It's almost as if mankind, the majority, especially the scientific community, are in complete denial of this. And I still don't understand why. Do you think it's because if they do come out and saying, okay, we have this proof, people like yourself have proved it, and they do exist, do you think that they're afraid that the general public, all of us, society, is not going to be able to handle that kind of truth?
Well, that's a very good question, Todd. What are they up to? I mean, I know that they're there. I can see their activities. I think they have a codex where they are not supposed to interfere, with an adolescent intelligence like ours that's just starting to, learn a few things, and of course we have the social problems, the political problems. We're constantly at war. We have millions of people dying every year from starvation, for God's sake.
Right.
We're not that mature, so they're not supposed to intervene. It's not probably part of their the way they do things. So they observe and they protect. They don't. They make sure that we don't get hit by a huge asteroid or comet. They've been protecting us for eons, probably,
and not telling us a lot of things either.
Yeah,
right.
They'd have to, because life is precious. Intelligent life is precious. Even life is precious. It's very precious, and it's not that common. You have to go out a ways to find other life. So a species like ours is special. We are a very precious thing out there, so they make sure that we survive. They make sure that nothing causes us to extinct our species. And all of the most of the observations that I have made concern asteroids and comets and meteors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're expert in. They can control these things so precisely. It's unbelievable. But that's part of their mission. As far as our planet is concerned, is to make sure that we survive, to see if we can mature, and if we can survive. It would be a tragedy if some comet just wiped us out. They're not going to let that happen. But now we're sort of at a point in our technological development that we can kind of protect ourselves now. So it's time to
take the
end
next
the
step.
embargo, as it were.
Yeah.
They're starting to communicate with us now in a very plausibly deniable fashion, but in a I'm sure they have some protocol that they have.
I agree. And that's what I want to discuss when we come back, Tom, is forms of communication, meteorites especially. This is very interesting. So everybody stay tuned. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes, but join us in the chat room. Those of you just tuning in right there at letstalkradio.net. That's letstalkradio.net. Log in through social media and post your questions in there in all capital letters if you would. And we'll be right back in just a few minutes. More Fate Radio on the way. Stay tuned.
Absolutely, positively has to be the best. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk. It's safe to say that we are not alone in the universe. Most of us believe in the existence of intelligent life elsewhere, but where are they? With over 19 years of extensive research, author, investigator, and ufologist Tom Conwell can only provide one answer. They are here. A series of books like no other that contains compelling evidence of UFOs on the East Coast. Volume 1 in the central United States. Volume 2 and the Western U.S. Volume 3. Not only has Tom written about these sightings in his book series, but also painstakingly documented each report on a one-of-a-kind UFO sighting map of the entire United States. Could the eyewitness reports of thousands of people be wrong? Read Tom Conwell's They Are Here series and decide for yourself. They have eluded us. They have traveled far. They are here. Order your proof today at theyarehere-conwell.com. That's theyarehere-conwell.com. Coming soon with your support. Preacher 6 is a small-town preacher that is summoned to the big city where he ends up fighting evil in a literal sense. The characters that he meets along the journey are something special and unique. They could all have their own films made about them. If you like original content that is driven by action and amazing writing, you must support the film Preacher 6. No remakes, redos, sequels, or do-overs for us. Let's take film back. If you like Quentin Tarantino-type films, then you will love Preacher 6. Preacher 6 is like Taxi Driver meets Sin City meets The Prophecy. So please be a part of something awesome. Sometimes darkness just needs a few well-placed bullets. Preacher 6. Support this new film at Indiegogo.com and search Preacher 6. That's Indiegogo.com, Preacher 6. Support it and let's take film back.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has delivered a one-of-a-kind reading experience, covering everything from psychics, UFOs, paranormal investigations, and more. To subscribe, visit fatemag.com or call 828-702-3032. That's 828-702-3032. Subscribe and find your true reports of the strange and unknown at fatemag.com.
In a world of many voices, there's just one that needs to be heard. Yours. Join the conversation at letstalkradio.net.
23 minutes past the hour. You're tuned in to Fate Radio Live right here on letstalkradio.net. I'm your host, Todd Bates, and this hour we are discussing intelligent life elsewhere, extraterrestrials with Tom Hackney. Now, there's a lot of information that we've already covered in the first part of the program. If you missed that, you're just tuning in from your night out, not a problem. We've got everything archived. You can listen to it about 30 minutes after the live broadcast right there at letstalkradio.net or the other mediums like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music. We'll have it up there about a half an hour after the live broadcast. And be sure and join us in chat. Post those questions in there, folks. I know you have them because I have a question for you in chat. Those of you in the chat room at letstalkradio.net, do you believe in life elsewhere, or do you think the government is correct? There's nothing out there. post your opinion right there in chat. Be glad to hear that. And, now, Tom, before the break, we were discussing the existence itself. And now I'd like to switch gears into the communication aspect of life elsewhere, extraterrestrials, and how they may communicate. Now, we've heard different theories that they communicate telepathically. There's other forms, light shows in the sky, for example. But tell us about communication, in the use of meteorites. Tell us about that, Tom, and your first experience with it.
Well, it all began in 1992 when NASA commenced the High-Resolution Microwave Survey, which was the $100 million 10-year program by NASA to look for extraterrestrials via radio waves. And that took place on October 12th, 1992, which was the 500th anniversary of Columbus' discovery of America, the quincentennial. And, of course, NASA chose that particular date for publicity reasons, because it was, we were looking for new worlds, like Columbus did 500 years to the day earlier, So that was sort of the setting of the first communication. And it's funny because the Peekskill meteor event, or Peekskill meteor impact event, occurred 3 days before that began, that SETI project commenced, and it was a preemptive event in that sense. But they knew what we were doing, and they sort of wanted to make a statement about it. So they did. The historical point was that Columbus went to the New World, and what happened to the New World? It got decimated, right? The conquistadors, and then all the rest, and even Columbus himself basically killed everything he could find. Enslaved the natives and killed them, and it was a disaster. Okay, so ET was making a point about that, and the way they did it was very interesting because they presented a situation. They caused something to happen in the world that was really impossible by human standards, anyway. But it was highly publicized. It was on every news show, and articles were written about it, scientific articles, and scientists studied it, and all this information came out about it. But this event, it was the most conspicuous impact event in history, and it was also the most well publicized and studied, filmed, photographed. I mean, there were 14 videos of the meteor coming into our atmosphere.
My goodness. In
like 6 states, U.S. states. And so it was on all the news shows, and look at this meteor, this fireball going up the East Coast at 8 o'clock at night. And it impacted a car. That's what the news said. It impacted the trunk of a car, but in fact, it impacted just the taillight of a car. And this taillight was a Chevrolet taillight, 1980 Chevy Malibu. It was about 5 inches by 22 inches in dimension. 5 by 22 taillight. And underneath was the bumper of the car, and just above the taillight was this little, slim chrome accent. So it was surrounded on 2 sides by chrome. And you had this long, attenuated, narrow taillight there. So the meteor hit the taillight, and it completely pulverized the taillight, but the chrome immediately below and above the taillight was intact, basically.
Okay.
It was almost no damage. So, as I said, the taillight was 5 by 22 inches. The meteorite was measured at 4 by 5 by 11 inches. So there's no room for error at all. And but the kicker was that the chrome accent was clipped on the right side. Or is it the left side? Let's look at the photo here. I'm a little nervous.
No.
It was clipped on the right side. Okay, and the accent was bent down over the numbers on a license plate, over the numbers 933 on the car, a license plate, and the communication really was in those three numbers, 933. So that was the first one. The 933 referred to March of 1993.
Very interesting.
That was the date. That was the month that the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 was discovered, and Shoemaker-Levy 9 was the most documented meteor impact event of all time. It consisted of 21 projectiles, 21 comets.
Okay, hold that thought 1 second, because we have a question in chat regarding the first meteor striking the tail light, which is spot on, by the way. As you said, there's no room for error there, Tom. And Wendy she asked, how did the heat from the meteor not melt the whole bumper? Do you think it was that hot upon impact?
The meteor was traveling at a great speed. It just hit the glass or the plastic of the taillight, and it caused the entire taillight to disintegrate, basically.
So it was destroyed.
The metal, the chrome, which was above and below it, was probably hard enough to. I mean, it wasn't hit.
Right.
It hit the plastic taillight.
It was that accurate. Coming from such
completely accurate.
It was
ridiculous
from a distance like that. That is amazing. So
that was what piqued my interest, and I started to investigate it. And the more I investigated, the more I learned about about this thing. The more obvious it was that it was intelligently crafted. For example, I'll just give you an example. The owner of the car, at the time that it happened, was a lady who was 17 years old.
Okay.
But she turned 18 on the 12th, which was the date that the SETI project began. So she became at the age of majority on the same day that NASA began the project, and the same day, of course, that the quincentennial was happening, the 500th anniversary of Columbus's discovery of America. So you have these these birthdays here, and of course it was a pretty good birthday present for the owner whose car was damaged.
Oh, sure.
Because she sold her meteorite for $50,000.
You're kidding me.
And $50,000, and then she sold her car for another $25,000.
Wow.
To collectors who took both the car and the meteorite all around the world to exhibit it all around the world. Japan, everywhere.
That's a nice profit.
Yeah. And the car was like a 12-year-old, beat up
a clunker
Chevy, But that was just one little tidbit there. But there, as I said, the communication. A lot of the communication was in the numbers 933.
Okay.
But of course, the other three numbers in the license plate were also important. But the ones that they wanted to emphasize with the chrome accent, which was overscoring it, those three numbers. I don't know. That was
the accuracy of that. Yeah, the accuracy of that is. I mean, they're obviously they were trying to get a point across by doing so, because to come from that distance, hit a target that small in diameter, and cause just enough damage, to where everything else was intact. Definitely trying to relay a message of somehow. I can definitely see where you're going here. Now go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, of course, the whole thing was called pig skill. Think about it. Pig skill. Was it luck or was it skill? It was skill, baby.
That was skill all day long. That was
big skill, right? All day long.
What an amazing. Now, what about the second occurrence here? Because they've done this more than once. Tell us about the second occurrence.
Okay, the Shoemaker-Levy 9 was a comet that was in 21 pieces, and it was discovered in 933, March 93, and it later impacted the planet Jupiter, or all 21 comets impacted Jupiter, which was, of course, the most, powerful, energetic event in human history. I mean, that we've ever seen. We've never seen anything that energetic happen before, much less, one cosmic object hitting another cosmic object. We've never seen that before either.
Right.
But all 21 of them, and of course, what is 21? In 1993 and 4, it's what do comets do? They augur, right? They augur future events, correct?
Correct.
Throughout all of human history, all cultures have that same, idea, is that comets augur things that are about to happen. So what was about to happen? Well, the 21st century.
Wow, this is not coincidence. This is coming together.
Communication.
Yes, this is coming together. Go ahead, continue.
It's like the 21 gun salute to mankind, who is now becoming age of majority, is growing up, is becoming technologically proficient, at least enough to go into outer space for a little while anyway. And it all made sense. But there are a lot of other details that I found through my investigations that were also just as interesting and communicative. Well, for example, as far as the Peekskill meteor event, because there were so many videos made, by people just with video cams, with cameras and video cams, taking videos of it as it was going up the East Coast at 8 o'clock at night. The scientists were able to collect those videos and do a lot of calculations, and they were able to figure out the exact flight path of the fireball. And the flight path began adjacent to the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, the NRAO, which was one of the main facilities used for the SETI project. Okay, that's where the fireball entered the atmosphere, sort of, where it was right there. And of course, at the time, the SETI radio astronomers were probably calibrating their instruments and hopping around in their laboratories and doing their preliminary work for the commencement of the project. And this fireball just just comes right over, right by them, and then it goes up the East Coast, and in a northeasterly trajectory, and hits the car in Peekskill. But the exact midpoint of that flight path was Washington, D.C. And, of course, Washington, D.C. was the city that, of course, funded the project. That was that's Washington, D.C., where the Congress had appropriated $100 million, for this project. So you have a triangular, actually an isosceles triangle, perfect isosceles triangle, where the entry point is one point, the known end point is Peekskill, New York, and the third point in the triangle is Washington, D.C. But it's an isosceles triangle. That's a triangle with two equal sides, right?
Correct.
So that was just more evidence, really, that who they were trying to get the attention of, or at least testing to see if what they would think about it. Of course, nobody in D.C. thought anything about it, because the news media wasn't really accurate enough in their reporting to allow anybody to collect the dots.
Now, with the
like the media was saying, oh, it hit the trunk of a car, right?
Right.
That's ridiculous. It didn't hit the trunk of a car. It hit the damn taillight.
It hit the tail light. I mean, it was that accurate. And a question I have for you, if you know, this meteorite that struck the tail light, and of course the second one, the ones that are being used for communication here. Now, were they of the same organic substance that other meteorites that have fallen here to Earth, or were they of different material?
It was a very common meteorite, an H6 chondrite is what they called it. A very common, stony meteorite.
Okay.
And it was exhibited in the American Museum of Natural History, along with the car. Both they were in the lobby for about 4 months in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, which is like the premier museum in the world practically for for natural museums. So it's not like it was some obscure thing that happened. It was given prime seat in the museum together, the car and the meteorite.
Amazing. I mean, you have these four. I mean, obviously they can't come down here and just knock on our doors and say, "Hi, hello, we're here." They're trying to get a message across. They're not. Just to reiterate here, they're not using microwaves or radio waves, gamma rays, anything like that to communicate with us. This was a simple. This is a simple, basically a rock tossed to us in a specific area to point out the 933, the significance of it, and. You have others out there now. What about some other communication? Have you noticed anything else other than these two instances? Well,
the third meteoritic event occurred in 2013. A few months after I did the George Norrie show. At the time, the big story at the time was, the 2012, the Mayan end of the world thing.
The end of the world. And hold that thought 1 second. We're going to take our last break because that is a perfect stopping point, Tom. That is a perfect stopping point. So you guys stay tuned. Join us in chat. Those of you just joining us here, fatemagradio.com or letstalkradio.net. Either one of those locations will get you into the live chat room. More with Tom Hackney when we come back. Fate Radio, stay tuned.
call other talk stations, all you get is,
"Hello, we're sorry, but no one is available to answer your call at this time."
But at Let's Talk Radio, we're here for the best talk, news, and information 24 hours a day. Hear it here first, or find out about the alien invasion tomorrow from someone else. Depend on us. Let'sTalkRadio.net. In 2012, Keith Linder, after successfully obtaining a management position at a prestige healthcare company, decides the time is right for him and his girlfriend to move in together. That's putting things lightly. Weird things begin to happen within days of moving into the modern suburban home. The horrors they witnessed and desperately tried to fight off would end up putting them at the odds with members of the paranormal community and themselves. This gripping story, told from the house occupant's point of view, not only lists tales, but also includes pictures, video reenactments, commentary, and audio of the events being reported. Author Keith Linder does not ask you to believe him. He only asks you to listen. The Bothell Hell House by Keith Linder, now available on Amazon. The book, The Bothell Hell House. The author, Keith Linder. Order yours today on Amazon. Haunted, a psychic story by author and radio host Ariel Grace. This is not your average book of hauntings. Haunted, a psychic story is written from a psychic perspective and contains true stories and some handy tips. Written in 3 parts, Haunted, a Psychic Story contains chilling adventures, advice from the archangels, and helpful tips used by Ariel Grace to clear haunted homes around the globe. Haunted, a Psychic Story is available on Amazon, or you can download straight to your Kindle. Haunted, a Psychic Story by Ariel Grace. Get your copy today. Real people, and not pre-recorded and regurgitated radio. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
"47 minutes past the hour. You are tuned in to Fate Radio Live. Those of you just joining us here, I'm your host, Todd Bates. This hour we're talking with Tom Hackney about extraterrestrial communication. This is amazing. You need to join us in the chat room. Number 1, to post your final questions. Number 2, we actually just posted a photograph of where that meteor struck the vehicle in the rear section, the tail light. That is right there in the chat room, so you have to see it to believe it here, and you can see it in the chat room, letstalkradio.net. Log in through Facebook, Twitter as a guest. And just a reminder, coming up second hour, we've got the ghost host herself, Sophia Temperilli, is going to be joining us here shortly. But right now we're talking with Tom about these meteorites and the communication from life elsewhere and how all of this is coming to pass. What do you think? Let us know your opinions in chat. Do you think that they are trying to communicate with us using these meteorites, these targeted areas? Let us know in chat. It's important. And Tom, right before the break, we were just getting into the third instance there. Go ahead and continue. You were talking about the turn of the century, or the 2012 phenomena, the big Mayan end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what happened then was, you see, NASA had predicted that an asteroid would do a very close flyby of the Earth on February 15th, 2013, and they knew it was coming, and it was in the news, it was all over, and it made a big splash, but that was just one asteroid that appeared that day. A second asteroid came into the atmosphere, blew up in the atmosphere, and injured 2,000 Russians. I mean, that's the most unprecedented meteor event ever, because people were actually injured. I mean, all the windows in the city of Chelyabinsk, Russia, were blown out by the shock wave of the asteroid. it was estimated to be more energy than 25 Hiroshima bombs. Okay, but because it exploded 18 miles above the Earth, it was mitigated somewhat, so that only a few buildings were collapsed, and all the windows were exploded, causing the glass to shatter and hit people's faces. So it was like in their face, right?
Right.
Like the others were. They're all in your face, But but nobody died. See, that was the clincher there.
No injuries.
Nobody died. People were put in the hospital. A couple people came close to death, but nobody died. So the point there is that, yes, you can predict, you can see these things out there, but, there are going to be some that you're not going to see. Because the Chelyabinsk asteroid was a surprise. And nobody was expecting that one. 2 asteroids in one day? That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
okay?
It is.
I mean, as far as coincidences go, and coincidences and meteors go, that was about the top of the top.
Right.
So everything, all these things are unprecedented, number one, and extremely well documented. I mean, the Russians had cameras. The Russians have cameras on the dashboard of their cars, for insurance purposes, because they won't pay unless you show them the video.
Right, a little different over there.
Have video cams in their dashboards, and so there were like hundreds, of videos of the Chelyabinsk asteroid.
And if I'm not mistaken, If I'm not mistaken, Tom, the Russian government, they're actually more involved with extraterrestrial communication and intelligent life elsewhere more than here in the States. They don't cover it up as much. They actually try to help with the investigations, from what I hear.
Well, I wouldn't know much about that. That's probably your area, but I wouldn't be surprised. The Russians, I think, got the message, and of course, I've been doing my own little thing, all these 20 years. I haven't been just doing nothing, but I'm not promoting it in the way that other people might. I do it I promote it to heads of states and presidents. I had, during the Obama administration, they were following me around like crazy. Because I live about 2 hours out of D.C., and I go into D.C. to do shopping, occasionally. And, they don't even hide it. They don't even try to, be secretive about it. They just, said, "Oh, he's here, he's here."
This is just it's such an eye opener, and it's refreshing to hear another take on this as well, because normally you hear the same forms of communication. This is different. This is something that it's almost as if it's designed for people like yourself that can pick it up, because not your average person is going to think outside of the box with this form of communication, Tom, and put two and two together here.
It's weird. It's not what people expect, and it's not what they're used to. It's totally different, and because it's different, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, and it's harder
the way they operate,
and it's harder to explain.
They want to be plausibly deniable. They don't want to hit us over the head with anything, but they want to just give it enough of a send so that it's there, if we want it, kind of thing,
So what do you think? I mean, here in closing, we just have a few minutes left in this hour. Do you think society, do you think mankind is prepared for this now, or do you think that we have a long way to go before we're able to absorb something like this?
Well, I think if people knew that they are, that they exist and that they are, I mean, they're so advanced, it's like, it's like, humans next to monkeys.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
we're the monkeys and they're the, intelligent ones,
They are definitely higher on the food chain.
Yes. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I put an ad in the New York Post for my webpage. What was it? A few weeks ago, and the only hits I got for my website was the White House.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding. The only ones let's see, about 2001, I had a whole bunch of, I had the White House for like 8 hours at my website. And I had a really big website back then.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious because that means you're doing something right, Tom, and keep doing what you're doing. And I am going to help you. We are going to help you spread the word as much as possible about this as well, because it is amazing. I posted the website in chat for you. Of course, Tom's website is SETIFacts.com. That's SETI facts with an S.com. And you can go there and read this information for yourself, see the photographs. For those of you that do not want to get into the chat room to see it, you can go right there to see it. And Tom, we have just a couple of minutes here. I want to turn this mic over to you so you can get out your information. If someone wants to contact you, if they have any questions, your books, get all this information out for everybody.
Okay, well, I mean, if you go to my web page, you can contact me by email. You can also read an article that has a link. The web page has a link to one of my articles. We'll give you a basic rundown. I also made some videos, which you have to look for, because it's kind of a game I play on the web page. Is how to find that video.
Good for you.
But anyway, the book is also provided at the web page. There's a link to my book, which just came out. It's just that's why I'm doing the radio show, is to to promote that book that just came out. It was called Alien Memos, and that was just before the Republican memos and the Democratic memos, and but just a coincidence, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah. I'd love to hear your comments or questions, and I just thank you all very much. As I said before, I'm going to start listening to you now, because that show you did with Joe Marino was absolutely fascinating.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really did, and I'll probably contact him myself.
Yes. Put those two minds. Put those two minds together, Tom, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you did an unbelievable job at explaining such a difficult topic. I mean, you had that spot on. You made it to where everyone understood, and I can't thank you enough. We are definitely going to get you back on the program here soon, because there are a lot of different things we can talk about with you. So we're going to have you on here again soon, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on here tonight, Tom.
Thank you, Todd.
You have a great weekend, my friend. We're going to be in touch soon.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And there he was, folks, Tom Hackney. Now, what do you think? What do you think now about extraterrestrial communication? Using these different methods. Hey, he explained it. Be sure and check out his website, SETIFacts.com. You can read the full story there. You can also read Tom's article in the current issue of Fate magazine, issue number 732. It is in there. It's actually entitled Hyperion. It's an amazing article, and you can subscribe right there at fatemag.com. Stay tuned. Right now, coming up is your latest news, but we've got the ghost host herself. Sophia Temperilli is going to be joining us here in just a few moments. You're listening to Fate Radio Live, letstalkradio.net. We'll be right back. Here's your latest news.
Under the microscope, I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Days after his office and home were raided by the FBI, we now know why President Trump's personal attorney is being investigated.
In documents filed for a court hearing in New York today, prosecutors revealed that the president's longtime personal attorney, Michael Cohen, is being investigated for criminal conduct that largely centers on his personal business dealings. Cohen's attorneys are seeking a temporary restraining order, barring prosecutors from using any of the materials seized in a Monday morning raid until they have been vetted for privileged communications. The government says they initiated a search because Cohen was not cooperating and there was a risk records could be deleted.
Fox's John Roberts at the White House. Fox News has confirmed President Trump has called Cohen, though it's not known what was discussed. A war of words between President Trump and fired FBI Director James Comey over Comey's tell-all book.
The president on Twitter taking direct aim at fired FBI Director James Comey, writing, "He lied to Congress under oath. He is a weak and untruthful slimeball who was, as time has proven, a terrible director of the FBI." Comey, in his forthcoming book, writes that the president is unethical and untethered to truth and institutional values.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. Earlier today, President Trump pardoning Scooter Libby, the former advisor to then Vice President Dick Cheney, was convicted of lying to the FBI and of perjury in connection to leaking the name of former CIA operative Valerie Plame.
The D.C. Court of Appeals panel unanimously voted to restore Mr. Libby's bar membership after being presented credible evidence in support of his version of events, and it appears that key prosecution witness, Judith Miller, changed her recollection of the events in question.
White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders. Judith Miller is a Fox News contributor. While the U.S. considers action against Syria over suspected chemical attack, Russia accused Great Britain of staging it. Fox News, fair and balanced. Arizona's governor pays a visit to the border after sending hundreds of National Guard troops there this week.
Governor Doug Ducey got some backup from the Border Patrol Friday, explaining to reporters why the National Guard is helpful to have.
We have seen spikes throughout the southwest border. I think March was one of the increases that we saw a tremendous number of apprehensions go up.
Tucson Sector Chief Patrol Agent Rodolfo Carish explained the drugs, the weapons, and the human smuggling mean they'll take all the help they can get. He said they would phase the Guard in to different areas and use the troops as support so they can deploy more border agents to positions that will help stop the flow of people and narcotics. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Bill Cosby's sexual assault retrial is done for the day, with his chief accuser taking the stand. Andrea Constant claims Cosby knocked her out with pills, then assaulted her. A Pro Football Hall of Famer is speaking out on mental health after suffering numerous concussions during his storied NFL career.
In an appearance on Megyn Kelly today, Brett Favre discussed the memory issues he's been suffering from following nearly 2 decades in the NFL. The Super Bowl champ says he was only diagnosed with 3 or 4 concussions during his career, but Favre says the traumatic injuries to his brain run deeper than that, as we learn more about what he calls getting dinged up actually being much more severe.
When you have ringing of the ears, seeing stars, that's a concussion. And if that is a concussion, I've had hundreds, probably thousands throughout my career.
The former Green Bay Packers quarterback adding he would not encourage youngsters to play the game that he loves. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
Fish oil supplements don't help people with dry eye. That's the finding by a federally funded study. About 14% of adults have dry eye, which causes pain and vision problems. It's more common with women and with age. The study gave 500 people daily doses of the fish oil or a placebo. After a year, symptoms were similar in both groups. Lisa Lacera, Fox News Radio.
Shopping, dining, beautiful lakes and rivers, and a monster? Welcome to Braxton County, West Virginia. Centrally located, Braxton County, West Virginia is the ideal place to visit. Natural beauty and recreation abound with 2 beautiful lakes for easy kayaking and canoeing, and many hiking trails. Did we mention the Flatwoods Monster? That's right. Visit Braxton County, West Virginia's Flatwoods Monster Museum and not only learn about the Flatwoods Monster, but walk in the same footsteps as the people who witnessed it. Nearly all of our attractions can be found within a few miles of Interstate 79. Visit us online at braxtonwv.org. That's braxtonwv.org. Braxton County, West Virginia. Center yourself here. Of all the radio stations in the world, we're one of them. WGOG Digital Broadcasting. Let's talk.
Top of the hour, you are tuned in to Fate Radio Live. I'm your host, Todd Bates. Those of you just joining us from your Friday night out, welcome to the second hour, and don't worry. If you missed the first part of the program, we've got you covered as always. You can find all the latest archives right there at letstalkradio.net. Now, we upload this about 30 minutes after the live broadcast. Now, you'll also be able to hear it on iTunes, subscribe for free, iHeartRadio, and Google Play Music. All of those mediums carry it. Just search Fate Radio or Let's Talk Radio. That's all you have to do, and you'll be able to catch up on all the episodes, including this one. Now, this hour, you are going to love it. We have got the ghost host herself, Sophia Temperilli, is joining us here. Now, let's see. I've known Sophia for a long time. Her and her parents as well. An amazing, amazing individual. Now, she hosts a program on liveparanormal.com. And with this, she's a researcher. She has got just all kinds of great things going up. But like I said, you can catch her right there, liveparanormal.com, and she helps kids and families with home haunting problems and psychic ability issues. And Sophia wishes to warn and precaution against hidden dangers within the paranormal, which we're going to discuss these this evening. Now, with top field experts' opinion and suggestions each week during her live and archive broadcasts. So just go over there, liveparanormal.com, and search the ghost host. You'll see her right there. I mean, she's all over the place. Welcome to Fate Radio, Sophia. It's great to have you.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. I can't wait to, start the show. It's been amazing, and I'm glad that I'm on Friday the 13th. It's always a great day on Friday the 13th.
What are the odds of that? Not only are we interviewing Sophia Temperilli herself, but on Friday the 13th. You can't get any better than that. You couldn't ask for a better time here. So it's perfect. It's perfect. Now, what we're going to get into here, let's inform the listeners here. Let's introduce you to them. And Sophia, tell them about yourself and how you got into this wacky field of the paranormal. How did everything start for you?
Well, hey everyone. My name is Sophia Temperilli. I am a 19-year-old radio host and paranormal investigator. I have been a radio host since I was 12 years old. My show is called The Ghost Host on liveparanormal.com, but I have been a paranormal investigator since I was 8 years old. I basically started in the paranormal I've always had an interest in Halloween and everything, and, my parents, way before I was born, when they were dating, would watch Sightings and The X-Files, so they weren't exactly in the field, but they always had an interest. Mm-hmm. And so when I was 8 years old, they went on their anniversary tour to the Queen Mary. The psychic named Peter James was doing the tours there, and he was on Sightings, so they were very excited to go, and for some reason I just got jealous. So I told my parents, and they took me on the tour. They beforehand asked the psychic if it would be okay for me to go to make sure everything was safe, and he said that it was, and I just loved it. So my parents and I started in the field at the same time. And shortly after that, about a year later, we discovered our house was actually haunted. There had been signs beforehand, but the activity didn't really pick up until I was about 9 years old. So, I've been in the field for a little over 10 years now, and I've been doing my radio show for almost 7.
Yeah, and that's where you and I met, was on the Queen Mary. I was doing an EVP lecture out there and met your dad, and of course, here comes little Sophia. I think you were 8 or 9 then. It was, it was about 10 years ago or so. That was amazing on how we were brought together like that. And growing up in a haunted home, what do you think about that? I mean, do you investigate your own house? What kind of evidence have you gathered in there?
Well, we've since moved from the home, but, being in the field, it was never scary for me at such a young age. I mean, I was so interested and intrigued. But living in a haunted house is so different than, just going out and investigating. Because, when you go on an investigation, you can come home and relax and review evidence, but kind of be away from it when you want to. But living in a haunted house, you can't. You can go to work or school, come home, and the activity is there. There's no real escape. And it was very scary at a young age. I really just started feeling like I was being watched at first, just all over. I just felt like I was being watched. And I told my parents. My dad had lived in the home when he was younger. He had to move out when he was about 9 years old. And then after my grandfather died, he moved back in with my mom. And then, I was born and I lived there. But they didn't really know what to think when I told them, there was a ghost in my mom's closet. After I started feeling like I was being watched, I could start to see him. And he was always in my parents' room.
A ghost in your mom's closet?
Yeah, it was odd, but, I told my parents and they didn't shoot me down, but they also didn't necessarily know what to think, even though we were in the paranormal, because they were like, no, our house isn't haunted, the
kind of
how
denial.
Could that be?
Yeah, they're in denial.
Yeah, and then my mom was putting makeup on one day and she started hearing knocks on her vanity door.
Oh.
And that's when the activity fully picked up and my parents knew that there was something in the house. My cousin, she was staying over. She spent the night in my room, and she had a man stand over her and watch her sleep. The ghost was primarily focused on women.
Oh, my goodness.
So men didn't really feel the activity there. My mom was being watched sleep. I was being watched sleep. And we got EVPs. My mom, in her vanity, had a little seat, and she had a light on it for many, many years that she just didn't know how to put up. And the first EVP we ever got in the home was, I'll help you put these lights up.
Wow.
So there were, yeah.
Now, this spirit, ghost in there, you said it basically annoyed or showed itself to females.
Yeah.
Was it malevolent at all? Was it something that was okay? Was it a nice spirit to have around?
It was definitely, not a good ghost. Before we even knew that the home was haunted, I was up at my aunt's house. It was New Year's Eve. And my mom actually had a piece of metal thrown at her back from 6 feet away.
Oh, my goodness.
And she didn't know that. She thought it was maybe, my grandpa just kind of, checking in. And, he was a jokester, so she thought maybe that's what he was doing. But, no. So it had actually, thrown a piece of metal at my mom. And it made a lot of women who went in the house very, very uncomfortable. So I wouldn't say it was necessarily a good ghost.
Well, did you do any background history on the home to see if maybe that was some kind of predator of some kind, or maybe like a sexual predator or something, to be attracted to women like that? Have you done any history, or did you just kind of say, okay, I don't want any part of this?
Well, the thing about the house was when my dad moved out when he was 9, it was because my grandfather was a paranoid schizophrenic. My dad's actually adopted, and so, he had to leave the home, and my grandfather was there. The spirit was not him, but after he died, there was actually a period of time in which the house was vacant before my parents got it. So there's a lot of unknown history, even from when my grandfather was there, of people who came in and out of the house, and there's no record of.
Wow. So do you think maybe there's no record, no history or anything of this spirit, and it resided basically in your mom's closet? Do you think your mom's closet may be a vortex or a portal or something, or?
Yeah, we had been told by psychics that there was definitely a vortex in her closet, and her closet and my closet, there was a wall separating them, but they were pretty much conjoined. So the back part of the house would be where the ghost went. You wouldn't really see him past the hallway, and so there was a long hallway, and the bathroom was there, and then my bedroom and my parents, but he would never pass the hallway. My dad's office was at the same level as the hallway, but he would never pass that. So definitely he was connected to something in that part of the house, which I'm assuming was the closet.
Right, and had some boundaries and probably could only go so far. That is interesting. Now, was this the only a spirit that haunted the area? Was there any other instances in there that you'd like to share, or was this it?
Well, my grandfather, he passed away in the house. But since he was mentally ill, the psychics did see him, but more just kind of confused and walking the halls, just trying to figure out stuff. So he never really was haunting, but there were apparently multiple ghosts in that home. We had Psychic Radio Rod come out with, his camera crew and just come and film and see what they picked up. Actually, when they were there, the first time I felt like I was being watched sleep, I was, I had a loft bed, and he wouldn't see me up there because it was a tall loft bed. And then one night, he actually had found me and climbed my loft bed ladder. And I'm not really sure how I fell asleep that night, but I did. And I really didn't know what to say or how to say anything. And so when the camera crew came, I was like, Mom, I got to tell you something. And she's like, tell me later. We have company. She didn't know that I had something important to tell her. And so I told her friend who was there, and then her friend told my mom. And right at that moment, no one knew what was just said. And one of the psychics walked by and said, there's a man on that loft bed ladder.
Oh my goodness. And this is something I want you to explain to the audience as well. And that's having a child, like back then you were younger, having a child in the home that, sees spirits or maybe hears things or has these different things happen to them that they can't explain. And they go to the parents and they say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I saw a ghost. And, of course, the parents, there's no such thing as ghosts. It was probably just this. Now, do you feel, number one, that because they're younger, more innocent, I guess, they're more they're better able to see or sense paranormal phenomena, for one. Number two, explaining it to parents, do you think that parents should pay more attention to their kids whenever they say they see something in the home?
Definitely. I know animals and children are different things, but they have the same innocence where they don't really know. When I was in the home, my dog would see the ghost. Whenever the ghost was in my room, my diamond doves would bounce off the cages. And there's just a certain openness that, animals and young children don't have because they don't close themselves off to it,
Okay.
So, there are things that kids can see that maybe an adult can't because, when you get older, you try and rationalize things where kids have imaginary friends, and which could be a ghost, but they're more open to seeing things that may not, be in reality because people,
that makes a lot of sense.
When they're young, and they're more open to imagining things and seeing things because it's not like this is what it is and everything's so logical.
Yeah, it's not like they're just their minds are more open. Is what you're saying. And growing up, I mean, trust me, I'm 45 years old, and I've closed my mind to a lot of different things because of, number one, films, things of that nature. You just kind of, as you get older, like you said, you try to rationalize these things. You try to debunk yourself to where, as a child, you're innocent and there's really, you've done no wrong. And the imaginary friends, you brought up a great point. And there are a lot of children out there that play with imaginary friends. They literally have conversations with them. And a lot of parents ignore it. Do you find that as well? A lot of parents just kind of ignore it or scold their child for having an imaginary friend. They're taking their kid to the local psychologist or something, thinking there's something wrong, but it's not. It's not the case.
And I think that's the thing about imaginary friends is kids are, susceptible to, imagining things because they're so creative at that time. But not all of it's creativity. Some of it's just what they're open to. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was in the house and I was younger, I would stand in my laundry room and just stare. I have no recollection of this. I wouldn't move. I would just stand there frozen. I don't remember this. I was about like 2 years old or 1 year old, and my mom would actually have to physically move me from the location. And so obviously when you look back, there were signs that there was something in the house that frightened me at that point in time, but I have no memory of it, and my parents don't know what to think because they had no signs of anything in the home, and I couldn't voice what I was seeing.
Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And time is flying by so fast with us, Sophia. We're already here at our first break, so you folks stay tuned. Join us in chat while you're out there. Those of you just tuning in here, join us in chat over there at letstalkradio.net or fatemagradio.com. Either one of those locations, you can log in through Facebook, Twitter, as a guest in there, or even register free of charge to be a user. Post your questions in there. There's great people in chat, great conversations going on in there. But more with Sophia Temperilli when we come back. Fate Radio Live. Stay tuned.
Let's Talk Radio would like to remind you that if at first you don't succeed,
I got it.
Don't try skydiving. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk. It's safe to say that we are not alone in the universe. Most of us believe in the existence of intelligent life elsewhere, but where are they? With over 19 years of extensive research, author, investigator, and ufologist Tom Conwell can only provide one answer. They are here. A series of books like no other that contains compelling evidence of UFOs on the East Coast. Volume 1 in the central United States. Volume 2 and the Western U.S. Volume 3. Not only has Tom written about these sightings in his book series, but also painstakingly documented each report on a one-of-a-kind UFO sighting map of the entire United States. Could the eyewitness reports of thousands of people be wrong? Read Tom Conwell's They Are Here series and decide for yourself. They have eluded us. They have traveled far. They are here. Order your proof today at theyarehere-conwell.com. That's theyarehere-conwell.com. Terry Lovelace is a 64-year-old retired lawyer and former assistant attorney general. The earliest alien experience Terry can recall was when he was 8 years old. Incident at Devil's Den. In May of 1963, he saw a UFO and described it as a perfect silver disc. 3 years later, on a clear night, he saw a second flying disc outside his second-story bedroom window. Incident at Devil's Den. In 1975, while serving as a medic in the Air Force, he witnessed yet another UFO hovering 50 feet over an ICBM missile silo. Incident at Devil's Den. 2 years later, while he and a friend were camped in an isolated state park known as Devil's Den, Terry had a life-changing fourth encounter. Not only did Terry and a friend witness an estimated 5-story high UFO, but this fourth encounter would be an epic, life-altering event. Incident at Devil's Den by Terry Lovelace. Digital download or paperback now available on Amazon.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has delivered a one-of-a-kind reading experience, covering everything from psychics, UFOs, paranormal investigations, and more. To subscribe, visit fatemag.com or call 828-702-3032. That's 828-702-3032. Subscribe and find your true reports of the strange and unknown at fatemag.com.
Let's Talk Radio started out with nothing.
There's nothing here.
And we still have most of it.
Yes.
WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
24 minutes past the hour. Fate Radio Live. I'm your host, Todd Bates. Those of you just joining us, don't worry. We've got you covered. If you missed the first part of the show, you can find all that you need right there at letstalkradio.net. Subscribe to us on iTunes free of charge, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio. We will have this broadcast uploaded about 30 minutes after it's completed here. That way you can catch up on all the latest there. letstalkradio.net. We are speaking with none other, the lovely, talented ghost host herself. Sophia Temperilli is joining us here for the next hour, and this is my favorite segment of the whole show, the long segment. I love this segment because this is when we can really get into the mind of Sophia and some of the things that she's accomplished and her opinions on some of the things out there in the paranormal world. But join us in chat, letstalkradio.net. Log in there, post your questions if you have any there. A lot of you are just really enjoying the conversation, which is great too. Now, Sophia, welcome back. And there's so many things to discuss here with you, so many that we're going to have you back on the program, which is great and fine by me. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about, investigating itself. There's a lot of controversy with a certain talking board or Ouija board out there. I'm curious as to what your opinion is of the Ouija board. Have you ever used one, and what do you think about them?
Well, I think they are very cool looking. I have not personally used one. I don't really want any repercussions that may come with them. I've heard many horror stories from them. So I personally wouldn't use one, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend using one. My friend actually used one, and so did her friend, and they did not have some great experiences with them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I have not used one, but I definitely know that there are some dangers with them. So if you do use them, just make sure, to use any and all precautions when using them, because you can open up some things that you may not be necessarily prepared for.
That's great advice. That's great advice, because there are some teams out there that use them. Some psychic mediums. We actually had one, Rebecca Smuck. She uses the Ouija to do her psychic readings, which I found very interesting. And unless you're properly trained or you really know what to do with one of those, stay away from it, because you can open some kind of doorway that you can't shut. Next thing you know, you've got ghosts galore all over the place there, and they're a little cranky. So that's great advice. That's great advice. Now, what about some of the hidden dangers during some of your investigations and things? What are some hidden dangers that you would like to to teach everybody here, instruct them, give them some advice on some hidden dangers in the paranormal?
Well, there are definitely so many hidden dangers, not just, spiritually with ghosts. There are physical hidden dangers while investigating. One example I have is actually from my radio show. Keith Age, who is a great guest and friend of my show, was on, and he was telling us a story about how he was doing an investigation, and he pitch black, has no idea. And he's doing an investigation, and he feels something under his foot, so he steps on it, hears a noise, steps on it, hears a noise, and he goes back and looks in the camera, and he actually had his foot on a mountain lion's tail.
Oh my goodness.
So there are so many hidden dangers. I know that there are people who love to go investigating by themselves just so they can isolate, and that's definitely respectable. But when you go out there, you always have to make sure that, you pre-scout a location to make sure that there's not a rusty nail sticking up, if there's not a hole in the floor that you need to watch out for. So when you go, make sure that you check out all the physical stuff beforehand and just know what you're walking into. And, if you're in the woods or something, kind of learn about what wildlife is out there. But
that's great advice.
On the more spiritual side, from living in a haunted house, I can't necessarily say that there's a special, foolproof way to protect yourself. But just go into an investigation knowing that there are risks, but, just take every precaution you can. Don't, provoke a ghost to where you will get serious backlash. I know that there are many forms to provoking, with a little child ghost, you could put a teddy bear out there and that will provoke a response. But, when you're screaming at a ghost, you have a more a higher chance of bringing something home. And one thing my family and I does after leaving an investigation is just saying, stay here. So
you instruct them. You instruct them to that's interesting. After, before you leave or while you're leaving, you actually, do you say this out loud? You tell them to stay there, that they're not welcome to come with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents say it out loud, and I just say it, mentally, because from what I've found with using dowsing rods and stuff, you don't have to necessarily voice it. You can get a response even if you don't.
Really? Now that's fascinating. And using the dowsing rods, which are an amazing tool in the research field, by the way. I think they're amazing. So what you're saying is you could hold these rods and think of a question or say it to yourself in your head, and you get a response on the dowsing rods?
Yeah, I find that it's a really great way that if someone's doing an EVP session, you don't necessarily want to say things out loud because, when you're doing EVPs, you need to give a certain amount of time for the ghost to give a response. But while you're using dowsing rods, I found that you can just say it mentally and you will get a response.
That is interesting. That's great advice, too, because there's, just think of all of the false positives you'll eliminate just by doing that. Because there's, you'll say these things out loud, and then if you don't note them properly during a session down the road, you may think, oh my goodness, we have a demon in here. No, that was somebody's stomach growling, or that was somebody mumbling this.
Yeah.
I could see that. We have a question for you in chat. I love this question. Brenda is asking you, what's the most humorous ghost you have come across?
Wow, the most humorous ghost, I would definitely say, on the Queen Mary, there's so many ghosts there, and I've had, ghosts, when I say, point to where you are with the dowsing rods, you kind of have them like tap over someone's head, and, with the dowsing rods, one of the most memorable things is when you say point to a person, they will actually point to that person, and it scares people sometimes. So I think, ghosts kind of in on that joke is pretty funny thing to have happen because, they know what they're doing.
Oh, sure they do. And that would, just think about it. Somebody that, maybe they're perhaps a skeptic and they're doing an investigation with you, and you ask this question, point to this person, and they point at them. That's probably going to change their tune after something like that. That'd be funny.
I did a report in middle school on ghosts for the science fair, and I had the dowsing rods, and I said point to this person, and she was so freaked out by it she would start hiding behind people, and she was moving different places, and the dowsing rods were following her wherever she went. So it was pretty funny to see, I must say, because I'm just demonstrating what they do, and I didn't realize that I would get that response, but I can understand it if you're not in the field.
Well, let's get into something here with paranormal television, the TV shows out there, because you've interviewed a great deal of these television personalities. Now, do you believe that people need to be skeptical about what they view on a paranormal reality show?
I definitely can see where, it's good to be skeptical. One thing I will always say, when people say that things are faked is, I understand that there is a lot of evidence faked out there, but also when you are filming a TV show like that, you have to think about the short amount of time they have to go over all of the evidence. You'll see people on Twitter saying, did you see that? They catch something that you didn't catch when you're reviewing it. So when you go through it, you have such a short amount of time to review evidence, and they may see something that they think is evidence, but someone who's watching, because there's millions of viewers, may catch something that you didn't. So I see why people have to be skeptical. It always is good to be skeptical because not everything out there is actually paranormal. Like I said, there is a lot of fake stuff, but on things like TV, there may be things that you see, something gets knocked over, but maybe someone may see a mouse, behind it, knocking it over, but you don't capture it. So it may seem like it's faked, but really it's just not something someone may have noticed. It's always good to take a step back. And when you're reviewing evidence for so long, for so many hours, you kind of lose focus of what you're looking at.
Correct.
And when you have someone who's not and just watching a show, they can take a step back and really see it for what it is.
That is great advice. Great advice. Having a fresh mind come in, kind of looking at, because if let's say you're processing video, you're analyzing that, like you said, and you're watching it for hours, the mind is probably going to start to see different things, and I believe they call that pareidolia or matrixing, and you're going to start to see these different things. Oh my goodness, there goes Abraham Lincoln. Who knows what you're going to see in there? So it's nice to have a fresh mind in there. And with the television programs, I believe that the majority of people do understand that it's entertainment as well. Because if they, let's face it, Sophia, if they did show a program with what really happened during an investigation, people are going to be bored, sick, because there's a lot of boring times when you're doing research. So they have to just show the highlights and go over a few things. So that's great advice. And Brenda actually has a second portion of that question. She wants to know about the saddest ghost experience that you've had. Have you come across any spirits out there that have been depressed or sad?
Well, I definitely, the Queen Mary ghosts, there's one on there that's very powerful and made me sad, but I would say the saddest thing that I kind of saw and really very shocking to me, I was at the David Oman house, and that is about 200 feet away from where the Manson murders took place. He was having his birthday party, and my friend Brianne and I were downstairs, and I had on the ghost radar, and we were just hanging out, just chilling. We weren't seriously investigating. We just had the ghost radar on to see what we capture.
Okay.
And the word, so surprising to me to pop up, was actually the word pig.
Wow.
On the ghost radar, which, if anyone doesn't know, that is actually what they wrote on the walls of the Manson murder site in blood, was pig.
Wow.
So it was sad and scary because you don't know who or what is saying that, but knowing the circumstances, it's sad because you don't know why that's being conveyed to you or anything, but it was very shocking to see because I've never once gotten that word on the ghost radar, and I've never gotten it since.
That is amazing, and just who that may have come from. Was it Sharon Tate herself? I mean, you just don't know who would have put that across. That's eerie.
It was very eerie. I just pretty much turned off the ghost radar after. Because, I've been there many times and I've never gotten that. And I was at a party, so I wasn't there to formally investigate. But it was just, something that I don't know why I got that. And I just felt it was a good time to, kind of stop the ghost radar and just leave the spirits and, the guests alone. Because it was just, that's such a serious moment in time and such a impactful word to come from that.
I mean, just to have that word, which has so much, a short word that has a lot of meaning with that particular case, that is eerie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pick your brain on something here. Now, what does the term afterlife mean to you? And number two, where do you believe that place exists?
Well, afterlife for me is really just the place that you go after you die. Now, what it is exactly, until I actually get there, is only just theories. But I've had many theories throughout the years, but the one that has stuck for me through the longest time came about while I was in Catholic school, my 8th grade year. I was in religion class, and they started talking about purgatory. And I just thought, you don't see ghosts from the 1500s or the 1400s. They disappear at some point in time. You may have residual energy, but they disappear. So what are ghosts? And with purgatory, it really opens up the idea that ghosts may be here just waiting, because when they disappear, where could they have gone to? I mean, there are the ideas of reincarnation, but they also could have gone to, any place, depending on what you believe in. And if they're in purgatory, they're waiting to enter that place, and that's why you have more recent ghosts versus older ones.
That is amazing. I have never sat back and thought of it that way. Now, I was raised Catholic myself, and purgatory, aka the penalty box, as we'll call it, it's like a holding pen in Catholicism. It's a holding pen. Now that makes sense, because when's the last time you talked to a Roman soldier? I mean, you just, they've obviously moved on. That's a great way of putting it. Now, let's turn this here with the ghost/spirit aspect. Now, do you feel that a ghost is more residual and is stuck here on this plane, whereas a spirit, do you feel that they have crossed into complete afterlife and are able to come and go as they please and more interactive and intelligent? Do you think there's a difference like that?
I haven't really. I see them as kind of the same, because I do think that people can come back and see you, but come back from where, I don't know how. And I always see them as kind of the same thing. I know residual energy is kind of just like, it's an imprint on this earth. When you look at the castles in Ireland, there's, I'm sure, a ton of residual energy from all of the battles there, all the knights and princes and everything who walk the halls. So I think that a ghost is different than residual energy, because residual energy, I think, is just energy that's been left there. I think it is paranormal, but I don't necessarily think it's the same thing as a ghost or a spirit. I think that a ghost and a spirit are the same as something that is intelligent and can respond and can see you, hear you, and know what you're asking.
Great way of explaining that, because it's a tricky theory that is out there, because there are a great deal that feel that ghosts are stuck here, and most are of the residual. They're not interactive, but the way you explained it, that definitely makes you think the other way. They are intertwined as one. Ghosts can be just as interactive as a spirit and vice versa. That's a great way to explain that.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the different, words you have for it, spanning across the many different languages. You have poltergeist, which, means more of like a silly ghost, but it is in a different language. So you have all these terms for ghosts that are just different languages. Speaking of that, have you ever come across maybe a poltergeist case? Have you worked a poltergeist case before? I have not. I would say, just going on investigations, you come across many different spirits, but I haven't worked on one singular case that is directly related to a poltergeist. Well, trust me, you don't want to. Now, with the poltergeist, they are, especially with someone at your age, because what I've come across in the field, and a lot of other researchers as well, is a lot of the poltergeist activity is actually brought on by the person themselves. We become like hosts or catalysts, and have this just tremendous energy that perhaps the spirit works through us, or even there's theories that we're just doing this ourselves. We're moving these things in our mind, especially adolescence, because of puberty, the change of life. They have all this built-up energy, Sophia, and I guess it just lashes out. Next thing you know, you've got plates flying across the room. I mean, it's crazy. A piece of metal, like at my house. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that would be similar, very similar, to a poltergeist type of case. I mean, I can't even imagine that. Oh, my goodness. Now... Yeah, I know that poltergeist kind of, you see more with home hauntings. I personally love talking to people who have home hauntings, because I can relate to them and they can relate to me, but I don't personally go out and investigate homes. I love connecting people to find someone. I know I've been in the field for a long time, but it's just not an area where I feel like I'm an expert in or really have a place to go out there and deal with something that is so beyond what I've even dealt with in my 10 years of investigating.
I highly respect you for saying that. That is amazing. And you know your place, you know your limits. You're an amazing individual. And when we come back, folks, we're going to wrap things up here with Sophia. My goodness, the hour just flies by. Don't worry. She's going to be back on Fate Radio. You guys stay tuned. Get your final questions in there in the chat room. Let'sTalkRadio.net. More Fate Radio on the way. Stay tuned.
We interrupt our scheduled programming to bring you the following conspiracy theory. Humpty Dumpty was pushed. WGOG DB Clearwater. Let's talk. In 2012, Keith Linder, after successfully obtaining a management position at a prestige healthcare company, decides the time is right for him and his girlfriend to move in together. That's putting things lightly. Weird things begin to happen within days of moving into the modern suburban home. The horrors they witnessed and desperately tried to fight off would end up putting them at the odds with members of the paranormal community and themselves. This gripping story, told from the house occupant's point of view, not only lists tales, but also includes pictures, video reenactments, commentary, and audio of the events being reported. Author Keith Linder does not ask you to believe him. He only asks you to listen. The Bothell Hell House by Keith Linder, now available on Amazon. The book, The Bothell Hell House. The author, Keith Linder. Order yours today on Amazon. Haunted, a psychic story by author and radio host Ariel Grace. This is not your average book of hauntings. Haunted, a psychic story is written from a psychic perspective and contains true stories and some handy tips. Written in 3 parts, Haunted, a Psychic Story contains chilling adventures, advice from the archangels, and helpful tips used by Ariel Grace to clear haunted homes around the globe. Haunted, a Psychic Story is available on Amazon, or you can download straight to your Kindle. Haunted, a Psychic Story by Ariel Grace. Get your copy today. In a world of many voices, there's just one that needs to be heard. Yours. Join the conversation at letstalkradio.net.
47 minutes past the hour, and you're listening to Fate Radio, of course. My goodness, what an amazing hour here with Sophia Temperilli, the ghost host herself. And be sure, I'm just going to push this out there again, check out her program. It's on Saturdays, liveparanormal.com. And of course, she's going to explain that more here in just a little while. But we are talking about all things paranormal this evening with Sophia. Definitely an intelligent mind out there in the field. Now, she has been researching, keep that in mind, since she was 8 years old, out there doing these investigations, which puts a complete spin on what a lot of us have done, because we didn't start that young. We weren't that young when we started, so just think of the experience she's going to have 10, 15, 20 years from now. Those are things you want to think about. It's people like Sophia that are going to carry that torch, pick it up where we left off. They are the next generation of researchers out there. And she has a great head on her shoulders, as you can tell. Very intelligent, and she's very respectful to the spirits as well during these investigations. And, you know, Sophia, we just have a few minutes here left in the show. Time just flies here when you're having fun. Now, let's get into, first of all, your favorite investigation and some places where you would love to investigate. What are some places that you would just love to go and investigate?
I would definitely, there's so many, great places to investigate. The number one on my list is very close to home, but somewhere I haven't been yet is Roosevelt Hotel. I love anything old Hollywood. I think the time period is amazing. So anything around old Hollywood, I would love to investigate.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great pick there. And the Queen Mary. Now, how often do you frequent there?
Pretty often. I was there recently with my friend. We were just, touring the ship and everything, and we go there pretty often. We filmed a YouTube video there and posted it of us doing an investigation. I've been there so many times since I started investigating. It was the very first place I ever investigated, so it is very, near and dear to my paranormal heart.
Absolutely, it is. It is just. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous vessel. A lot of activity. Very, very, amazing. And one in particular is Jackie down there in the first class swimming pool. Now, have you ever had any communication with Jackie?
We have. We got, a little girl singing at one point in time. I've had my elbow touched in the pool area. That seems to be, even though it's like one of the only times I've ever been touched by a spirit, I sometimes slips my mind, but I have been touched on the elbow in the pool area. I have not been in the pool area recently because the spirit there is so intense. It just really affects me, and it's way different than it used to be in there.
Now, do you find yourself more empathic as you've grown up? You sense these more perhaps a psychic ability coming forth?
I wouldn't say a psychic ability. I would say I'm more sensitive. I kind of compare myself to those Geico commercials where it's like, oh, you have a cavity. Well, aren't you going to fix it? No, I'm a dental monitor, not a dentist. So I can tell you what's there, but I can't really do more than that.
Okay. Well, at least you have that, and you're going with your gut feeling on that as well, which is very good, very good. Now, do you find yourself out there in the field? Do you keep a good skeptic background, some caution in the back of your mind? Do you try to perhaps debunk your own evidence and things of that nature? Or do you just really accept everything?
For sure. You always have to go into every investigation with a skeptical mind. On a recent investigation my friend Brianne and I did, we went to Black Star Canyon, and she was doing a little bit of research, and she found out that there are some, legends there, and she was talking about La Llorona, which is a Mexican folklore. And I haven't ever really looked into folklores having really anything behind them because, they're just legends told. Mm-hmm. But while we were there, actually, for those who don't know the story, she is called the Weeping Woman, and basically, long story short, she drowned her kids and has to spend the eternity of her time searching for her lost kids. And while we were there, we got the name Mama and Baby next to a creek bed, which is where she is said to have drowned her children. Ooh. And we also got the name Maria, which is La Llorona's name. Sorry, I probably messed that up, but
sounds better than I could.
So there are definitely things that I'm skeptical about, and I've been proven wrong on, but I always have to go in not being sure because I would have never expected that on an investigation in a million years.
Good advice. That is great advice. And keeping things simple out there in the field, too. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, Sophia, or you listening. There seems to be a lack of common sense these days out in the field. Everybody's just kind of leaving that behind. But let's get into
those Tide Pods.
Yeah, exactly. The Tide Pods and the thing they're doing with their nostrils now.
That actually happened 6 years ago. So I'm really surprised that went on YouTube about 6 or 7 years ago. So I'm surprised it came back.
Yeah, it must be some kind of reoccurring fad. That's just, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Let's get into Sophia's plans for the future here. What are your plans for the future?
Well, definitely my plans are right now to continue investigating and continue doing my radio show. I want to put out so many more YouTubes and, get some more great guests on the show. While I was in high school, I wasn't able to put all my focus on investigating and my radio show because I needed to graduate. But now that I'm out, I definitely want to put so much more effort and time into making so much great content for people.
Oh, you're amazing, and you do a fantastic job at that as well. You and your dad make a phenomenal team, and
Thank you.
A father and daughter having something like that in common and working together on a project. I mean, my girls, they're not into the paranormal. It kind of frightens them, but just having that bond, something you and your dad do together in common, and of course your mom's involved as well. I mean, the whole family's involved in it, and that's what's phenomenal. So keep on keeping on doing that. You're doing a great thing out there for the community. You're helping with the unity, and you're really waking up a lot of people in your age group. You're making it easier for them to perhaps one day walk in your footsteps and learn from you. It's very important that you get that out to the community, and that's what you do. So it's a great thing you're doing out there, Sophia. And we have just a couple minutes here, but I do want you to promote yourself here. Now, get out your program, showtimes, websites, how people can get in touch with you. The mic is yours, hon. Have at it.
Well, thank you. So tomorrow on my show, The Ghost Host on liveparanormal.com, it is at a special time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK Dramatic Mean Time. We have Dustin Perry of Ghost Hunters on to promote his new program. And my show is normally every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you guys can find me on Instagram at Sophia Temperilli, Twitter at Sophia Temperilli with 1 L, and Facebook just at Sophia Temperilli.
Wow. Oh, it is so great having you on the show and talking with you again, Sophia. And I cannot wait to have you back on here again. We're going to be in touch, and you just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job, hon.
Well, thank you so much, Todd. I've had such a great time, and I can't wait to come back on in the future.
Wonderful. Give my best to Mom and Dad as well, okay?
Definitely. Thank you so much again.
You bet. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Sophia Temperilli, my goodness, what an amazing, amazing individual. Now, she is somebody that a lot of people need to be. She's open-minded. She does the right thing. Be sure and check out her program. Saturdays, noon. Tomorrow, like you said, it's at a special time, 10 a.m., and you can listen to that live at liveparanormal.com. Just look for the Ghost Host. Can't miss her. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to Fate Radio tonight. We'll have the broadcast up here in about 30 minutes, but I want to let you know about the other great programs here on Let's Talk Radio. And coming up Sunday night, you have got Ariel Grace hosting a Gang of Girls Radio. Now, her guest Sunday is going to be Nicole Strickland. They're going to be discussing the Queen Mary and take you on a tour of the haunted Queen Mary. 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Monday night, you've got Surviving Evidence with your host, Krista Cesare, Phil Casey. That's at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Tuesdays, Keeping the Spirits Alive with John Tobin. That'll be a replay this week. Followed by Haunted Voices Radio with yours truly. I host that. Now, Wednesday nights, you've got Paranormal Experienced with Kat Hobson, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And Fridays, you've got Ghost Talk with 187 PI. And followed by Fate Radio right here, 9 Eastern, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. You can find the full schedule right there at letstalkradio.net as well. We've got that up there. You can see the latest guests. We have that updated for you. And I want to thank each and every one of you again for tuning in this evening, and you have a phenomenal weekend. The archive will be up here in about 30 minutes at letstalkradio.net. Have a great night, folks.